It is the middle of May. And we are talking about snow. Not a dusting. Not a flurry that melts before it hits the ground. We are talking 10 to 20 centimeters of accumulation in the Kootenays of British Columbia. Heavy snow hammering Labrador with poor visibility through the day on Wednesday. Snow across Jasper and Banff as freezing levels drop into the mountains. Light flurries stretching into Saskatchewan heading into the long weekend. And through all of it, a pattern change is finally arriving across this country, one that is going to reshape the forecast from coast to coast over the coming days. The cold that has been stubbornly locked over Ontario, Quebec, and Atlantic Canada is not gone yet. But the ridge that has been keeping the West warm is on the move. And where those two systems meet over the next 72 hours is where the most dramatic weather of this week is going to unfold. Good morning. This is your national forecast for Tuesday. Let us walk through all of it. We start in British Columbia, because a significant weather event is developing here and it is going to build through the middle of the week in ways that will affect everything from the coast to the Rockies. Tuesday is actually not a bad day across much of British Columbia. Vancouver is sitting at 26 degrees in the afternoon with a chance of some light rain showers and even a rumble or two of thunder as instability begins to build across the lower mainland. That combination of warmth and instability is a signal of what is coming. A low-pressure system is pushing toward the north and it is going to set a chain of events in motion that will fundamentally change the weather picture across British Columbia by Wednesday. Wednesday morning is when things get serious for the province. Widespread rain is going to spread from the eastern part of the lower mainland east of the Fraser River up through the interior. And in the higher elevations, that rain is going to become something else entirely. Snow. Areas like Whistler Blackham could be looking at snow through the next few days, with the accumulation focused in those higher elevations. The Kootenays are facing the most significant accumulation in the forecast, with upwards of 10 to 20 centimeters expected on the back end of this low-pressure system heading into Wednesday and Thursday. In May. 10 to 20 centimeters. If you are heading into the backcountry, into the mountains, or through the mountain passes during the middle of this week, you need to know this before you go. In terms of rainfall totals across the interior of British Columbia, 10 to 20 millimeters is possible through Wednesday. Temperatures will be cooling as that rain pushes through Wednesday and into Thursday, settling back around seasonal levels for the south coast by the middle of the work week. The overall trend is toward more unsettled conditions after a stretch of warmth that was remarkable by any measure. Lytton had been breaking records earlier this week. That chapter is closing. Now the Rockies deserve their own mention here because the snow in this forecast is not limited to the interior of British Columbia. The Rockies are going to see substantial accumulation as well heading into the weekend. Jasper down to Banff is in the zone for some of the more significant amounts, with freezing levels dropping to around 2,000 meters and cold air pushing in on the back end of this system. If you have travel plans through the mountain corridor this weekend, particularly over the long weekend, watch this forecast closely and check road conditions before you depart. The difference between a safe mountain drive and a dangerous one can come down to a forecast you checked the night before. That same system then crosses the Rockies and spreads its influence eastward into Alberta and the prairies through the latter part of the week. Alberta is enjoying a beautiful Tuesday. Lots of sunshine, temperatures holding into the 20s across the southern prairies. It is the kind of afternoon that makes you forget that weather like this week's forecast even exists. But it exists. Wednesday brings light rain showers into Alberta as that low-pressure system crosses the Rockies and begins its push eastward. Temperatures hold steady into the 20s across the south even as that rain moves in, so it is not a dramatic cold crash for Alberta, but the trend is clearly toward more unsettled conditions. By the time we push into Thursday and through the long weekend, that system is going to spread rain and unsettled weather across the eastern prairies. And on the northern end of this system, there is snowfall. Snowfall impacting areas across the northern prairies heading into the weekend. And in Saskatchewan, even light flurries are stretching into the province on the back end of this cold air push as we move through the long weekend. Saskatchewan has had a complicated stretch of weather this week already, with flooding conditions in the central parts of the province around Prince Albert being a serious concern. More rain on already saturated ground is not what that region needs, and it is what the forecast is delivering. Manitoba is sitting at 17 degrees on Tuesday, below where Alberta and Saskatchewan are, but still a reasonable day. The improving trend that began over the weekend is continuing, and the prairie warmth is gradually working its way eastward. Regina is at 22 degrees and sunny on Tuesday. These are the temperatures that remind you why people love the prairies in May when the weather cooperates. Across Canada's north, the picture is sharply divided. Whitehorse and Dawson City are sitting at 14 degrees. Fort Smith is at 16 degrees, warmer than much of Ontario and Quebec right now. But Rankin Inlet is at -3, and Kugluktuk is at -2. You can see exactly where that upper-level trough is located just by following the temperature gradient across the north. Cold where the trough sits, warm where the ridge has its influence. And that divide is the story of Canadian weather this week in its most concentrated form. Now we come to Ontario and Quebec, where frost advisories are in place to start your Tuesday morning, and a significant rain event is building through the afternoon and evening. Tuesday morning across Ontario and Quebec is cold. Frost advisories are active for the early part of the day as that upper-level trough continues to drag cold air into the region. But here is the brief silver lining. Tuesday morning is actually going to bring some sunshine before the clouds and rain move in through the afternoon. Enjoy it. It is the last clear window before a busy stretch of weather takes hold. Because Tuesday afternoon is when the front arrives. Widespread rain showers are going to spread from the Kenora area all the way through Sault Ste. Marie and down toward the GTA through the late afternoon and into the evening. This is a frontal system pushing in from the prairies, and it is going to bring a significant and prolonged round of rainfall to southern Ontario. The GTA gets another round overnight as well, which means Wednesday morning is not a clean start for the city. Ottawa and the nation's capital pick up the rain Wednesday morning as it pushes into southern Quebec. By Wednesday afternoon, the heavier rounds are possible across Quebec, with some rumbles of thunder mixed in as instability builds. Rainfall totals for the region by late Wednesday could be in the range of 10 to 30 millimeters. Not catastrophic, but meaningful, and coming on top of a week that has already seen significant precipitation across much of the east. Windsor is sitting at 15 degrees on Tuesday. Temperatures are starting to recover from the prolonged cold snap that has held central Canada in its grip all week. The ridge that has been dominating the west is slowly and finally making its way eastward, and that means the below-seasonal temperatures that have been the story for Ontario and Quebec are going to moderate over the coming days. The improvement is coming. It is just arriving with a rain event attached to it first. Now we head to Atlantic Canada, where the rain keeps coming and the story keeps building. Moncton is at 12 degrees and dealing with ongoing rainfall on Tuesday. St. John's is at 9 degrees with heavy rain continuing through the day. The system that has been parked over Atlantic Canada is finally showing signs of movement, with Nova Scotia getting a break from the rain as we push through Tuesday. But the relief is temporary, and it is not for everyone. Tuesday overnight into Wednesday brings something that will surprise even the most weather-hardened residents of western Newfoundland and Labrador. Snow. That same cold air that is dropping snow in the higher elevations of British Columbia and across the northern prairies is going to push into this region, and as that system makes its way off to the east, the cold air wrapping around it is going to turn that precipitation to snow across western Newfoundland and Labrador overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. The blues on the forecast map spreading across this region tell the story clearly. In May. But the more immediately serious story for Labrador is what is happening on Wednesday itself. A fickle and slow-moving low-pressure system is going to bring widespread poor visibility and heavy snow through the day on Wednesday to the eastern end of Labrador. This is a significant snowfall event for the region, not a brief flurry, not a passing squall, but heavy snow with visibility impacts that are going to make travel dangerous and outdoor conditions genuinely hazardous. If you are in Labrador on Wednesday, this is a day to stay informed, stay cautious, and avoid unnecessary travel until conditions improve. And then there is the longer range picture for Newfoundland, and it is not a comfortable one.